That tightness in your chest before a big meeting. The mental loop of what if I fail? Most of us treat anxiety as a feeling we're stuck with, but ancient Stoic philosophy, practiced by Roman emperors and modern CEOs alike, frames it differently. Anxiety is not a feeling, but a judgment. It's the story you tell yourself about an event, not the event itself. And that story can be rewritten. So we're not just talking about calming down. We're installing a mental operating system for unshakable judgment. Here are the 13 Stoic steps that build it, starting with the one rule that changes everything. So, the first and most powerful step is to understand what is actually yours to command. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. Some things are within our power, our judgments, our intentions, and our actions. Most things are not. The weather, other people's opinions, or whether that presentation goes perfectly. Anxiety is the tax we pay for fighting the uncontrollable. This principle isn't passive acceptance. It's the active choice to invest your energy only where it can make a difference. Master this, and you have the foundation for every step that follows. Now let's apply it. Now, with that foundation, we move to a more active practice. The Stoics called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This isn't about expecting the worst. It's a deliberate mental rehearsal. You vividly imagine a specific fear, like your presentation failing, and walk through it calmly. By separating the raw event from your catastrophic judgment of it, you drain its emotional power. The anxiety loses its grip because you've already faced it in your mind. It's a cognitive vaccine, building resilience before you ever need it. And that mental strength is what we apply next, in the critical moment of choice. This is where the Stoics place their most critical lever. Between the initial impression, that spike of dread, and your judgment of it, there is a tiny, powerful gap. Your mind says, this meeting will be a disaster. The discipline of assent is to pause and ask, is that true, or is it just a first impression? You don't have to accept the automatic, catastrophic story. By questioning it before you grant it power, you intercept the anxiety spiral at its very source. And that creates the space for your next move, getting it out of your head and onto the page. But what happens when the anxious thought is stubborn, and that pause isn't enough to dissolve it? This is where the Stoics turn to a tool you can hold, the journal. They called it hypomnemata, a memorandum to the self. The act of writing down the raw impression, I am terrified this project will fail, externalizes it. You see the feeling as a separate object you can now examine. Is this fear within your control? Apply the dichotomy. Is it a catastrophic judgment? Apply the discipline of assent. On the page, the overwhelming feeling becomes a manageable problem you can solve with the steps you already have. So you've written down the anxious thought, examined it, and it still feels huge. The Stoics had a final cognitive shift for this, the view from above. It's a mental exercise where you deliberately zoom out. Picture your worry from 100 years in the future, or from the perspective of the cosmos. Your urgent meeting, that awkward conversation, against the scale of human history or the vastness of space, its weight dissolves. It's not about dismissing your feelings, but seeing their true, temporary proportion. This perspective shrinks the anxiety down to a manageable size, so you can hand it off to the next, even more powerful step. But the Stoics didn't stop at acceptance. They pushed for something more radical, a more fatty, which means to love your fate. This isn't passive resignation. It's the active choice to embrace everything that happens, the setback, the delay, the anxious moment itself, as a necessary thread in the fabric of your life. When you see the obstacle not as a disruption, but as the very material you were meant to work with, resistance melts. The anxiety that came from fighting reality transforms into fuel for your growth. A more fatty trains you to embrace the uncontrollable. But Stoics like Seneca took it a step further. They would deliberately create small, manageable hardships. This is the practice of voluntary discomfort. It's not about punishing yourself, but proving to your anxious mind that a physical sensation, like cold water or hunger, is separate from a catastrophic judgment. You build the muscle that says, this is just a feeling. I am still here, and I am still okay. That proof of resilience is what makes anxiety's future threats feel far less convincing. And this practice builds the unshakable core the Stoics call. Marcus Aurelius wrote of an inner citadel, a fortress of character built by your choices, not your circumstances. Your identity isn't your job title or social status, which anxiety can attack. It's your commitment to virtues like courage and integrity. When you anchor your sense of self there, in what you can control, no external event can shake your foundation. This is the ultimate Stoic defense, becoming someone that situational anxiety simply cannot define. And to maintain that citadel, you must regularly ask one clarifying question. That inner fortress is strong, but it can be overwhelmed by clutter. The Stoics practiced self-denial not as punishment, but as a filter. Before any impulse, a purchase, a new commitment, a distraction, ask one question: is this necessary? This simple pause cuts off anxiety at its source, overcommitment, and scattered focus. It's Stoic minimalism for the mind. By regularly pruning non-essentials, you conserve your energy for what truly aligns with your character. And that conserved focus is what you'll need for the next decisive step. You've built the fortress and cleared the clutter. Now, you need a tactical bridge between them. The Stoic pause is that bridge. It's the deliberate breath you take before you speak or act under pressure. This tiny gap creates the space to apply everything you've learned, to choose a response aligned with your values, not a reaction dictated by anxiety. This final step isn't about morbidity, but about focus. The Stoics would keep a physical reminder, like a coin or a skull, not to fear death, but to clarify life. It asks one piercing question: if your time is finite, what anxieties are truly worth your limited energy? It strips away the trivial by confronting the ultimate deadline, forcing you to invest only in what is meaningful and within your control. And that clarity of focus is what finally allows you to draw a clear, practical line between what you can change and what you cannot. Now, we make that focus visual. This is a practical exercise from modern Stoic teaching. Draw two circles. In the outer one, list everything that worries you: global events, others' opinions, past mistakes. In the inner circle, write only what you can actually influence: your effort, your attitude, your next action. Your job is to consciously withdraw mental energy from the outer ring and invest it here, in the actionable one. This isn't ignoring problems. It's strategically deploying your attention where it can actually build something. And to lock in that strategy, we do one final thing each day. With your circles drawn, the final step is to close the loop. The ancient Stoics ended each day with a brief, structured reflection, a daily audit of their character. They would ask, where did I act with courage today? Where did I let an anxious impression slip past my discipline of assent? This isn't about self-critique, but about calibration. By noting where you succeeded and where you can apply these steps more firmly tomorrow, you turn philosophy into a self-correcting habit. This is how theory becomes your unshakable practice. This isn't a collection of tips, but a single, integrated framework. Each step reinforces the others, creating a practiced discipline that builds unshakable calm over time. Your call to action is simple. Tonight, choose just one of these steps to implement. Begin the daily work of building your inner citadel.